how can a young lady become trafficked? I mean, just uh, from your experience and your testimonies from the girls that you serve.
Well, I think most people honestly think it happens like the movie Taken, um,
Mm,
which sometimes there are jokes about that, um, because that is very few and far between where there's
mm,
actually kidnapping happening. Um, in most cases, it's a girl or a boy is trafficked by a family member or someone very close to them. Over 90% of the people that we work with or have worked with, they were trafficked by someone they trusted 100%. So the way it works is there are people focused on finding um, victims, and their whole purpose is to recruit into human trafficking. And the way that they do that is by building relationships and building trust. And if you see pictures of traffickers, sometimes you'll see these pictures and you think, oh, yeah, I could see that person being a trafficker. But most traffickers look like young kids. And that's part of the difficulty with human trafficking. And it's even more difficult because family members, sometimes parents, cousins, uncle, aunt, will be the person who is starting the trafficking.
wow. So you gotta be careful. Some of the relatives. I mean, is it normally like people from lower income, middle class, upper? I mean, who's most likely to fall into that with the relatives thing?
It could be anyone, honestly. We've worked with, women 18 and up, but they come from, we've seen, you know, Christian families. It doesn't really, human trafficking doesn't discriminate. So anyone that is potentially a victim, the traffickers are smart. I mean, they come in, it could be like this good looking young kid, maybe he's 15, 16, 17, whatever age. He's
Mm-hmm.
really cute, looks good, and he starts a relationship with the girl. She thinks he's the greatest guy ever. And they start dating, and then it turns into exploitation and trafficking.
But is he working for someone else that's older that's using him? Oh, so they use him
Usually,
as bait
yeah,
usually.
yeah.
So it's not like, is it more like a mafia thing, kind of like there's hierarchies and they it's all controlled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good example of how it works.
I mean, I'm a father. I have two daughters, and you watch sometimes. I don't know how true it is. Like, hey, there's guys in a dark car in the parking lot of Target at 11 at night or at Walmart, and they're waiting for girls to come out so they can take them and use them for sex trafficking. And this was all over the internet. Is there truth to that? Or I know
There
you
can be,
mentioned.
yeah. I mean, for example, my daughter went to the park last week to just, she likes to play basketball. So
Uh,
she pulled in and she's like, I saw this white van parked there. And then I was like, just listening to her. And she said, yeah. And then all of a sudden, another white van pulled up next to it. And then one of the guys got out and walked over and was kind of like watching her. And she knew enough. She was like, I got to get out of here. So she left. Um, if if there are enough of them, like let's say there are 5 or 6 in a vehicle or in a van, especially, and I'm talking about the white vans without the windows. Um,
uh,
it can happen like that, but like I said, it doesn't happen. Maybe less than 5% is the number that I've been told.
mm. So what do you tell a mom who has a like a 15-year-old? How can she train her, or how can she educate her on not even getting trafficked?
Yeah, with moms and dads, the key really is relationship and having open and honest conversations. With my daughters, I've brought them to our events in the past so they could hear stories about the reality of human trafficking. It's one of those topics that's really kind of hard to talk to your kids about, but at the same time, it's so important because it can happen to anyone. So it's really important to have that open communication and love your kids no matter what, and explain to them that this is the reality of human trafficking. So all of a sudden, this new, it could be a girl or a boy shows up at school and they're making promises to you. They're telling you, hey, you want to make some money? You know, I can get you money so you could go buy these designer clothes, designer handbags. And to teach our kids, like, hey, if somebody's coming and promising you things like that, it's probably too good to be true. And honestly, it's hard because as parents, sometimes our kids are like, I'm not listening to mom and dad. But we just want to create that safe place and tell them, like, hey, no matter what, I love you. Here's what the reality is. And even if you make a decision, we're gonna be here for you through every decision you make, and we're gonna love you no matter what. So to me, the key things are be aware of the social media as well. What are your kids doing online? So that's happening quite a bit, which on our social media sites, we're sharing about what's happening with cases of kids being exploited through social media. So there's that one part, and then having that open communication and expressing that you will love them through every decision. And then explaining what human trafficking is and how easily it can happen to anyone.
You know, it's funny because you hear stories of like, especially in college, just, this girl meets a friend that this friend, she drives same age as her, drives a Mercedes. She's like, oh, come join me. I'll pay for this class. We can go to this class. I mean, not class, like a dance class or something else together, and we can have fun. And yeah, and we'll, come meet my friends. And you wonder, like, how does this person have that much money? They driving without, oh, my parents have money, but you can tell there's something. So always, yeah, be careful, moms, if of some of the friends now, because you think it's an older person. It's gonna, like you were saying, it's someone their age, 15, 16, 17, trying to lure them in. Now, what is the worst case you've heard, worst case, or you've experienced of a young lady or someone coming to you from human trafficking? And we'll walk it through the process that Rebirth Homes does.
Okay. It's hard to say what was the worst case. They're all pretty hard. I mean, every case that we hear, we just have to realize that other humans did this to a person, which it's pretty horrific. We've heard, or some of the women we've worked with were exploited as young as like when they were babies. Oh. They're definitely in that very under, age 5 to 11. So when you think about it, the exploitation is happening in the formative years of their life, and by someone that's either a family member or close to the family. So, and this is happening in the US, I have to mention, because we can go online and we see stories of other countries where
Right.
there is this generational trafficking happening where kids are groomed and raised for the purpose of being sold into trafficking.
Mm.
But we have that here as well. It's just better hidden. And so, I mean, the stories are, I don't have one in particular, just because every story that I hear, I'm like, how is this possible that other humans can do this? And it starts at such a young age. The stat out there is that 80% of people are first trafficked between the ages of 12 to 14. I think the number is actually probably lower based off of what we're seeing. And I think over time we'll have better information, but at the end of the day, it's happening at very young ages. And it's very traumatic and very complicated.
So let's say this young girl, she was trafficked. She probably, maybe will use the old terms of a prostitution and a pimp that will attack her, beat her up if she, if she leaves. Then she escapes and she comes to your home. And I know what the first thing you guys do, you do trauma and informed individual counseling, and then you do therapy. And what do you do with that person? Let's say a woman runs to you and say, "Help me! I want to, you know, I'm being my pimp, my something, my human trafficker." What do you guys do? What is the first thing you do?
Yeah, so when the women come into our home, which we now have 2 homes in Riverside County, yay!
Yes, that's great. And we need the people. If you have a house that you are, oh, it's my investment house. Oh, the mark. You know what? And you're getting like, you don't need the money, the extra. You can donate it to Rebirth Home. Yeah, I mean, this is amazing. We'll talk about this later, but go ahead. Yeah.
So think about living out on the streets, or think about being moved from city to city and not knowing where you are every day. You're waking up in a new place. Drugs can be used, and in a lot of cases are used, so you're not fully comprehending what's happening to you. Food is withheld as a form of manipulation. And if a woman does not meet her quota, and this really goes for anyone being trafficked, if they do not meet their nightly quota, they will be physically beaten, and food may or may not be withheld. So literally, it's this trying to survive and not being able to trust anyone, and living with abuse and rape over and over again every single day. That's their life. So coming into Rebirth Homes, the first thing is that they have their own space. So they have their own bed. Some of them come in without clothing. Like, this sounds kind of silly in some ways, but things like underwear are withheld. So when they come to us, most of them are like, I haven't had underwear. I don't have them. The only reason I would get them is because if the trafficker wants to get them to me. And it's for the purpose of making him more money. So coming in there, this is their first opportunity to be able to breathe and have food in abundance, and to be able to sleep, to have clothing. We take them shopping for things like underwear, to get medical care. In most cases, most of the people we're working with haven't had medical or dental care in years. And if
Wow.
it was just like an emergency, like, hey, I have to go to the doctor because, you know, I need stitches or I need, you know, emergency
Right.
care, but it's quickly an in and an out. So generally speaking, when they're coming in, especially we've had women come right from jail, we've had women come right from the streets. They are in medical crisis, in some cases, dental crisis, psychiatric crisis. So what we're doing in that first 30 days is building that safety and stability and trying to get them stabilized with the medical, dental, counseling, all of those components that are so critical for them to be able to heal. Because honestly, if you are in physical crisis, like you're having medical crisis or even a dental crisis, like, I don't know, I've had those situations and you can't concentrate,
Yeah.
right? You have a toothache, you're like, ugh. So we immediately get them in for medical care. We get them in for psychiatric care, and assure them that, hey, you're in a safe place. You can sleep tonight. You don't have to worry. So that's kind of the transition. That first 30 days, it tends to be pretty tough. Some of them also are detoxing. So they're coming in and they may have taken drugs, you know, a couple days before. We've even had them the day before, maybe the day of.
The day of, yeah.
Yeah, so they're kind of detoxing when they come in. And then after they get, usually about at the 30 to 45 day mark, we are providing counseling and group therapy all this time, but we also are attending to those critical areas. And then once they get to about that 45 day period, they start to really, you can see the difference because they start feeling safe. They're like, okay, yeah, actually, I think I am okay. And then the process starts where they start to dream a little bit and start to think about, hey, I have some goals. I actually want to go to school. I want to work. So by about 3 months in, at that point, they really, I don't know how to explain it, but it's a radical transformation that takes place because we see somebody coming in who really hasn't had a voice, who has one of them that came in, she was like, I don't talk to people, and she wouldn't say anything. And when she left Rebirth Homes, she was like talking nonstop. So, but that's the radical transformation we get to see, is going from not having a voice, being in complete crisis, to dreaming and thinking about the future and actually being able to achieve their goals for their lives.
And what do you call it? What's the rate of people not even lasting the 45 days? Does some of them go back? They go, you know what? I want to go back and do drugs, or hey, this is, you know, what's the rate of them sticking?
Our retention rate past that 45 days is around 90%.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then you guys have like a queen therapy. Would you have horses and they can get to? Do you have a stable behind the house or what?
That's one of the requests. That's why I'm laughing. We do have a big property. It's 1.3 acres. And there have been requests for horses, but I figured we first have to focus on the humans. But one of the ladies early on, like right after we had opened, she said, can we get a horse? We really want one back there. And so they were talking about, well, you know, horses poop, right? So somebody's got to clean it up. So they said, who's going to do that? And one of the ladies said, well, Kevin, my husband, can be responsible for that. So he got elected to do that. I was like, I don't think we're going to be doing that.
But your
Not
neighbors
yet.
too, you have to be
But
aware.
we do.
But guys, if you're listening and you have horses or access to horses and you want to donate a horse, would you take it? Would you take it at this point?
I don't know. Just call. You can reach out. We'll talk about it.
Okay. All right. And also, you guys, you teach him how to do. I have a friend. She's from our church in Crossroads, and she decided to go to Thailand, to Pattaya, which is the hub or the capital of sex trafficking. And she's a hair stylist, so she started a salon there, and she trains the girls to get them out of sex trafficking by training them, giving them a skill. Now, you guys do that? Do you do skill training, or you teach them how to get a job and that?
Yeah, we do. And we have really incredible partners. And we always are looking for more partners. And equine therapy is through a partnership as well. So we get to go visit the horses and then come back.
No cleanup.
No cleanup. But yeah, so we sit down with each woman, and she comes up with her goals. So if somebody wanted to cut hair, for example, we would work with them on getting her into like a cosmetology school. So whatever their goals are, that's what we're going to try to help them achieve. And we provide life skill training. So a big part of the trauma is understanding that all of us who have gone through trauma have triggers. And if we don't know what those are, and we don't have coping mechanisms, it can cause angry outbursts, right? So like PTSD, all of a sudden something hits someone and they're like, out of 10. So part of our training is identifying triggers, learning coping skills, learning how to de-escalate, and then working through the trauma associated with whatever that trigger is. And that's where our counseling comes in. So we partner with the Grove Counseling Center, and they're very gracious and provide professional licensed counselors who are Christian counselors. And the counselors will work one-on-one with each lady to help her work through all the different parts of her trauma. So the life skills are pretty extensive. We're doing things like budgeting, how to, if you make money, like how do you save? What does it look like to manage money in a way that ultimately you become independent and can manage your money well and thrive outside of Rebirth Homes.
Now, how many girls do you have in each house?
So our one home is up to 6 and one is up to 8. So we could have up to 14. We haven't gone up to capacity yet because we have to look at dynamics in the home, and we've focused on quality of care versus quantity. And so we are going to continue to operate that way. There may be a time when it works to have both houses full, but we don't want to compromise anyone's healing to have someone else come in.
Do they have fights? You get, they get, what do? You don't, do you have, are you there every single day? Are you get a call like at midnight, there's 2 girls fighting, you have to go? What is it like for you to run these things?
Yeah. So, well, my husband helps as well, but we are on call 24/7, 365. So there are times when we do get those calls. Like last night we got a call, so we went over there. It was around like 7:30 at night. And there was one time, this was years ago when we went over there and I had to sleep on the couch because I was like, somebody's going to get hurt tonight. So I'm going to be sleeping out here and ready just in case. But again, the conflict comes from it's survival, right? So you're on the streets, you're trying to survive, you're in a trafficking ring, you're trying to survive, and, you know, stuff happens. And so sometimes there's conflict.
Yeah. That's hard. That's hard. Speaking of your husband, I want to switch and come back. I'm ADD, but
Okay.
your husband's from India originally, right?
Yeah, he was born and raised in the Middle East in Qatar, but
In Qatar. Oh.
Yeah, so he originally, his family is from India. So.
Oh, okay. So he speaks Arabic, kind of.
He does a little bit. He speaks like 5 languages.
Wow. And how did you guys meet?
Through a mutual friend. It was like 20, what year are we in right now? So 26 years ago.
And how many, you have 2 daughters?
We have 2 daughters, yeah.
And are they, have your husband got to a point where he said, you know what, I'm just tired of this, or has he not? Is he on the same wavelength as you are with the whole ministry?
Yeah, initially I knew it was God's calling, and he will describe it as he came in kicking and screaming. We had a pretty comfortable life, and so it was a pretty radical change for us as a family. We kind of had to give up all of our comfort to just do this. But he's 100% in. He goes over there. We're kind of like the parental figures, I guess. But he's really great. He does anything. He's like, okay, there's all the weeds that need to be pulled because we just had a bunch of rain. So he gets out there, pulls weeds. If it's conflict, he'll help with that. If he needs to, it doesn't matter. He'll do anything. He's amazing.
Now, what do you call it? As far as, I just want to go back into some numbers here, because the average victim of human trafficking is raped 6,000 times. The life expectancy for a sex trafficking victim is 7 years. That's coming from intofreedom.org. Also, it says that Houston is the #1 city in human trafficking, but California as a state has the highest human trafficking rates in the U.S. with 1,507 cases reported in 2019. And, you hear stories of truck stops in Southern California where there's a lot of these young girls are doing the work. Now, they come out, let's say they come to your house. Have you ever had any danger where their pimps or their gangs coming after them into the house, or no?
No, by the grace of God. We keep our location confidential, and we ask all of them to sign like an agreement, basically, that they will not disclose where we are. Honestly, I think what we've seen over time is that they feel really comfortable and feel safe and feel loved. And so some of them that have left have said, hey, you know what, I want to come back. And I don't think that they will jeopardize what is their safe place and what is the safe place for others. So at least not yet. I'm super thankful. We do have security measures in place, I should add, but our #1 security is keeping it confidential.
Amen. Now, is there a success story, one story, someone that came in traffic and now they're thriving?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few of those. And one of them is very vocal. So her video is actually on our website. Her name is Cedar. If you came to our fall event last year, she sang. But she's really amazing. She came to us and was with us a year. And she graduated from Rebirth Homes as well as from her court obligations on the same day. and she's doing so great. We started a social enterprise to provide employment for the women that are in our program. And if you look on our website in our Freedom Store, she's hand painted these rocks. And so we're able to, she's not living with us. She's moved out of the area. She's in a really safe place. She's still on the journey of healing. I believe it's a lifelong journey, but she's doing really great. And you can see, she shares some of her story in the video, as well as you can see some of the products she's made. But she's another one where she came in and I met her for the first time in jail, and beautiful, beautiful, beautiful person. And literally just seeing God transform her life and transform her into who she was truly created to be is really amazing.
Now, how can someone, like a normal person like us, not involved with that, how can we spot someone, a lady being trafficked, and not standing on the street or something where you go, wait, this person's getting trafficked, they need help? How can you spot them, just from your experience with all these girls that you have?
Yeah, it's a little difficult because it's pretty well hidden for the most part. In certain areas, there are areas called the track. For example, Corona, there are areas in Corona that there's a track. Riverside, there's a track. But trying to get out there at the right time to see someone is half of the battle. The second part is that usually they're being watched. So the way that you can identify things, like if you're a teacher, for example, if you see one of your students show up to class and maybe the student is now wearing different clothing, starting to dress a little more provocatively, has their nails done, hair done, like all of a sudden you start seeing changes, and then you see this child start to maybe move into isolation. Those are signs that she could be trafficked. It may not be, but those are signs. If you see something going on in a home, because trafficking is happening in homes, so the way that works is the victims are moved from home to home. And I use the term victim for somebody who is being victimized, and survivors for the ones that are out of trafficking. But they get moved from city to city. And so it's in this house one night, this house another night. So if you see things happening at night, and maybe there's like, most purchasers are men. So all of a sudden you start to see like men showing up at this home and stuff happening at night. Could be a trafficking. There was a case just, I think it was, I don't remember the state, but there have been several cases recently where they're finding kids that are, one of them had like 38 kids living in a home. And so the way that law enforcement found them was they followed the ads online. And through those online ads, and the purchasers, also called Johns, showed up to try to purchase one of them. So all of this type of activity is what we want to look for. It is not safe. If you see someone out on the streets, I would say report it to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, which you can go online and get that number. It's 888-3737-888. But I would say report it. If you really think, okay, yeah, this is trafficking, I'm going to report it. One other thing to be on the lookout for are those ads that you sometimes see on like telephone poles. where they have the little numbers and they say, oh, looking for models, looking for teenage actors or actresses. And so those are entryways as well. Anytime I see those, I rip them down. So
that's very good. I never knew that. That's very important. Let's see the again. So if I'm walking, let's say walking on the street, I see a sign next to on the stop sign. There's this piece of paper that says, "Oh, you want to be an actor, or we're looking for young actors and actresses." This is kind of a sign that these are the way they attract these young people to recruit them. Wow.
Yeah, probably something. It's probably not real.
Wow. Well, let me ask you this. You get the vision from God, and I can relate to some of what I'm going to ask you. You get this vision from God, you get excited, you start serving people, you're starting sharing Jesus with them, and you're seeing the progress, and then you go, we need money. So now you turn from this minister of what God called you for to becoming a business, learning how to raise the funds, how to run the nonprofit. You become an attorney, you become a budget, an accountant. How do you handle that? And what part do you love and what part do you hate about it?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I love sharing the vision, and I love the life change, the transformation. I love that I get to be a part of what God is doing. Sometimes I'm just blown away. I'm like, oh my gosh, he just did that. Like he does stuff I could never do. So all of that every day just keeps me going. I'm like, wow, we serve a really big God. Do I like doing the reporting and all of the other stuff? Which is kind of funny given my background. But I think when God gave the vision, he was like, you're going to be the person carrying the vision, and you need to give up all this other operational type stuff. So yeah, and I love connecting with people. I love, being able to connect with you, being able to connect with others in the community is pretty amazing.
But what about the money asking, which is every executive director? I have two ministries, and you have to ask. And sometimes you either hate yourself or you get mad at people. How don't you care? Why don't you care?
Yeah, that's true. Like, just $5 a month. It makes a huge difference. Yeah, God keeps working on my heart in that area. At first I was like, okay, we've got to raise money to open at least one home. And then his vision was to open a network of homes. And his big vision is to redeem 1 million people. So I'm like, how are we going to do this if we don't have money? And, just like running our own homes, it costs money. You have bills, you have to pay your mortgage, you have to pay your utilities, you have to pay all the food. So yeah, I'm still growing. I feel like it's just, share the vision and make the ask, and whoever he brings will join in. Whoever is supposed to be on the journey will join in. We do we are going after grants. We're asking people, individual donors, churches, corporate sponsors, pretty much anyone. And I feel better about it now. This is God's thing. We have to be out there and, hitting the pavement, knocking on doors. Okay, here we go. But really, it's about life change. It's about providing that space for healing. It's about getting people out of human trafficking. So, but yeah, it's been, I'm still growing.
How much does it cost for one lady to come and join the program and spend the 2 years in your home? How much would that cost?
Yeah, so it's about $1,200 per month per woman. So that's like $14,400 per year. If you think about that think about even I think about somebody just starting out. and making minimum wage, that's the amount that the program costs is less than that. So to me, it's very, it's nothing, it costs them nothing. The women coming in, we want to always provide a free program.
Right.
So we do look for people to sponsor women in the program.
And what about people who like, okay, what other ways people can help other than financial? How can they help you?
Yeah, we always ask for either prayer, committing to pray for us, volunteer, and then giving financially. And sometimes people will, like right now with all of the Zoom calls, we have people signing up to host a Zoom education session. So doing something like that is making a difference. We've had people decide to do supply drives. So we have a house full of women. We need things like toilet paper and feminine products. So they decide to do a supply drive and then bring those items to us.
Wow. And of course, they're the young ladies and they need, I have two daughters. They need makeup. They need stuff. They need
Yeah.
extra. And, you got to take care, you got to take. So you on your website, which is rebirthhomes.org, is it?
It's rebirthhomes.com.
.com, rebirthhomes.com. People can buy some like candles and stuff like that. I saw something about, tell us about that. How can they help financially that way?
Yeah, so we employ the women in our program, which is something that makes us kind of unique in our area specifically. But the women are making items like candles. I mentioned earlier, cedar making rocks. We have some other items on our website. So if you go onto rebirthhomes.com and click on our Freedom Store, just know that the women are being paid. So they are employed by Rebirth Homes and at the same time learning job skills, earning an income, and any purchases help provide for their employment as well as help support the ministry.
Wow. So what is your vision the next 5 years? What do you like to say? I know with the coronavirus and the pandemic, it's putting a hindrance a little bit on but it's the same time. You think because of the pandemic, the sex trafficking is less than normal or more?
It's more, for sure. Yeah, for sure. So we weren't really sure how it was going to play out back in March, but what we've in working with other organizations who are seeing what's happening out on the tracks, it's increased. And if you think about the fact that most people are trafficked by a family member, they're now stuck at home with the family member. So we know that in speaking with like our therapists, they're like the incidence of like abuse and the trauma is increasing because people are forced into their homes. So, but yeah, the vision is to open homes in other areas. So we're looking at some other areas, including overseas. So my husband is from India. And so we're looking at India as a potential site to open a home, and some other states that do not currently have homes. We're looking at opening homes there, as well as hopefully we would love to open a resource center in our community, which is Riverside County. And the resource center would be a place where people could come for help, like in the moment, and we could build relationship with them. And attached to that would be building out our social enterprise, and eventually opening a coffee shop. So it's a big vision. I honestly hold loosely to dates because I haven't been right on any of them, but God knows the best time. So it's his vision. He has to provide, and we just walk in his timing.
Now, as far as what do you call it? Let's say someone listening to us right now in Arizona, and they said, "Hey, I have an extra home. I would like to use that home for what you're doing." What does it take other than the home? What is it? Don't they need someone to manage it, run it? You need a, what do you call him? Like a mom or a dad, what do you call it, the house mom parent that lives there, or you, what does it take other than the house itself?
It takes community for sure. I know Rebirth Homes wouldn't, we would not be doing what we're doing if it was not for the community as a whole. It, I can't even tell you how many people have given sacrificially of time, treasure, talent. But yeah, you need community support. You definitely need staff, and volunteer staff are great. But in most cases, most volunteers can only give like a couple hours, which is a good thing. But when you're running a home to provide high quality of care, you need somebody there consistently. And I'm speaking from experience because we went through that. So I was like, okay, it's your 2-hour shift. The women were like, it feels like a revolving door. I'm like, I'm so sorry. But yeah, I think having the community support, ensuring that you have the financial support is critical. Having counseling support is critical. I've been in ministry over half of my adult life, and this is the hardest thing I've ever done. But again, I'm so thankful for the opportunity. So you have to be ready to be on call 24/7, 365. So somebody has to do that.
That's amazing. So, guys, if you want to support Rebirth Homes, just go to rebirthhomes.com. Be able to. There's a donate button. I'm sure there is, so you can give. You can pray about sponsoring a lady once. Once 1,200 a month for the year, 14,000 something, and that will change someone's life. Changing someone's life, and you don't have to do it yourself. You don't have to be there. Rebirth Home staff and Debbie, they're taking care of all that, the counseling, all of that is involved. And so really, I want to encourage you to support. This is a huge problem. This is not happening in Thailand. This is happening here in the U.S. And if you're a parent and you have daughters, I mean, this kind of, mothers can feel, I kind of, know what it feels like. I mean, without having going through it, they what it feels like. So I pray that you're able to support, and if you want to drop stuff at their location, of course it's going to be secretive, so you have to talk to Debbie or Rebirth Homes and find out how you can drop some toilet paper, some other stuff that is much needed for them. Debbie, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're busy with all these girls helping them, so thank you for taking the time to be on our show. I appreciate your friendship, and hopefully whenever you need me, I would love to serve.
Thank you, Nazareth. It's a joy. I love seeing you. Yay!
Yeah, I know we're gonna do some funny shows, but thank you so much for your time. And people, if you're listening, I want to say, if you want to continue, these are free podcasts, but if you want to support, there's an app or a website called Patreon, patreon.com, and you can put patreon.com under Comedian Nazareth, and you can just become a partner to support these podcasts. But Regardless, we love to feature people that really you can support their ministries and doing great job like we did with Debbie and Rebirth Home. So thank you guys so much, and God bless you, and thank you so much, Debbie. And if you are watching tonight, every night, weeknight at 8:30 p.m., we have the Live with Naz on Facebook Live. So join us and laugh with us where you become the comedian every weeknight at 8:30 p.m. On my personal page, Comedian Nazareth One on Facebook. God bless you, and thank you so much. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you.
Bye.
God bless. Bye.